last year in December, they put out a report which surveyed physicians, and they asked them of four categories, which ones grew in 2020. And the categories included injectables, medical device, and medical equipment, and skincare.
Mm-hmm.
And skincare, the other four categories, or the other three categories, had a growth rate of 45% of responders saw growth. Skincare had a growth rate of 77% of responders saw growth last year.
Yep.
And so from that standpoint, we really are excited about the fact that, retail skincare and services is being looked at very different. In the past, Grant, when I first joined Jan Marini, it was a little frustrating. I think sometimes, physicians kind of like push that off to the esthetician and say, as long as they're happy. I don't think they're doing that any longer. I think they're trying to really combine what they're doing in location with a stronger retail strategy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Technology of Beauty, where I have the opportunity to interview the movers and shakers of the beauty business, and today is no exception. Today, I have the opportunity to interview my dear friend, John Connors, who's the CEO of Jan Marini, and we're going to get to know him and get to know more about the Jan Marini line. Hi, John. How are you doing?
Hey, Grant, it's great to see you. Thanks for having me on, and I love watching your shows, so it's a real pleasure.
Thank you very much for joining us. Where are you today, John?
I'm at our corporate office, so we're in San Jose.
Uh-huh.
And I've been coming here actually pretty much every day since this whole thing began. All we have here is really kind of me, the CFO, director of HR. Jan comes in, and we have our shipping and receiving team. But besides that, we've been pretty much everybody else is working from home.
Okay. Well, let's go back. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school and that sort of thing? And then we'll work our way to Jan Marini eventually.
I'm a Midwest boy.
Uh-huh. That's why I like you.
Yeah, that's right. So grew up in Columbus, Ohio, and went to school at Miami University in Ohio.
Uh-huh.
And was an econ major, and which has served me well. I just like the analytics of economics. I didn't necessarily see myself at that point getting into aesthetics, but I find a lot of things that I learned back at Miami have actually been skill sets that I've used since being in aesthetics all these years.
Right. And after college where did you go first?
Went to New York. I was actually in finance. So this is back during the Wall Street days, and I was inspired by Michael Douglas. And so I went and did that for a little while.
Uh-huh.
And then I landed out back in California, and lo and behold, in 1996, I joined a company called Coherent Medical.
Right. And that's when I met you.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so that just happened to coincide with resurfacing, CO2 resurfacing taking off. And a couple of years later, the LightShear came on the market and the VersaPulse. And so it was a really exciting time in aesthetics. And I just happened to kind of catch it where lightning was in a bottle. And, I was really joining the company as they were going from being a $10 stock to a $50 stock within 12 months.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And what year was that again?
That was 96.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I started there in 94, but really 96 is where I really started getting a lot more into sales. And I was there through 1999, and then I went off from Coherent Medical and joined a company called Acme Medical, which became Altus Medical, which ultimately became Cutera, and was there for 10 years, started off in sales. But, just like anything, when you're successful at what you do, you tend to have a tendency to kind of get more responsibilities. And, I was always a salesperson at heart. I loved being in sales. It was really difficult for me to give up the bag. I remember when when Michael Dav, and Michael, I was his direct report, and Michael said, "Hey, I need you to be a full-time manager." And I really vacillated on it because I loved being in sales so much. I made that decision. It turned out to be the best decision I ever made, and I ultimately ran sales and marketing for Cutera until 2009.
Okay. And
so
then,
I was there when we went public, and we were doing $30-some-odd million, and 3 years later, we were doing over $100 million. So it was a very exciting time. And, we were the first long pulse ND YAG laser that was being marketed for hair removal. And as you know, that really extended the spectrum of patients that could be treated safely and effectively with devices for, the darker skin types.
Yes, indeed. And then when did you join Jan Marini?
So it was, I took some time off. I had a young family at that time. And we were living in Tiburon. And so my daughters at that point, I think were like 4 years old. And so I took a few months off and enjoyed them. And, when I was at Cutera, we had a partnership with Abaji Medical. And of course, in '08 and '09, the device companies got pummeled.
Hammered, yeah.
And, I wanted to stay in aesthetics. I had great relationships with people like you, and I wanted to stay as close as possible. And I was really intrigued by the professional skincare segment. Jan Marini called me. They were 77 miles away from where I lived in Tiburon. I said, you know what? I'll go down and meet the team and see what they're all about. I knew the brand, didn't really know much about them, the team, and where they were going. And came down, the first thing that crossed my mind was I liked them. I liked the products and the reputation. But it was clear from a marketing standpoint, there was a lot there left to be done. Mm-hmm. And so I made that decision in late 2009 to join the company. And a couple of years later, I was general manager. Then I became president, and ultimately here for the last 4 years, CEO. But the one thing about Jan Marini that's good and bad is we're a privately held company. If you think about all the skincare companies and aesthetic companies, and I know Sciton's privately held, but there aren't a lot of companies that are truly self-funded. Mm-hmm. So we are that company. We do what we want to do, but unfortunately, since we're self-funded, we have to be profitable in order to invest back in the business. And so the first several years, it was really retrenching and coming up with stronger sales and marketing strategies, building a team out. And then ultimately, we started seeing profits rise, and based on that, we're able to put a lot more money into the business.
Okay. And at this point, are you profitable?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've been profitable the last several years, but if you look back, the last 3 years has been two major events for the company. First one being that we got the partnership. We sought out for being a partner with Massage Envy. We landed that account in spring of 2019, mm-hmm. and we're in 1,100 of their locations. And so that allowed us to really scale like we had never scaled before. We went from a sales and education team of 35 people to now we have a sales and education team that's double that.
Is that right? And that's in 2 years?
In 2 years, yeah.
So you have around 70 employees then?
We just in sales and education.
Okay.
So yeah, we have between sales and sales management, we have nearly 60 and 9 people in education.
Interesting. And at that point, you were U.S. based, correct?
Yeah.
Have you gone international yet?
We already were, but it wasn't really a big focus of ours. We did very well in the UK, Australia. We had a few other markets that we were doing fairly well, and we've had some success in Canada in the past. But we got into China a few years ago, and that's worked out pretty well too. But large pockets of Asia and the Middle East have not been as areas that we really have gotten into until fairly recently.
Mm-hmm. And now you've made some arrangements, some partnerships with Clay, right?
Yes, the Clay team and Catherine and Orvan and Eva. It's an amazing team of professionals. They have a great background, and it's an interesting model. It's a hybrid model where they're not the direct distributors, but they have so much knowledge of India and the UAE, Korea, Japan, other Southeastern Asian countries, mm-hmm. and they really know who the players are. And from a regulatory standpoint, a lot of these countries are very difficult to penetrate. And so what are you doing to comply, and what does that regulatory process look like? And so this team, has done an excellent job of identifying, who the key players are from a distribution standpoint, as well as in parallel getting us regulatory approval for these countries. Mm-hmm. But just the Japan market alone, one of the aesthetic companies that's out there in the space, in Q1, they posted in Japan that they have a relationship with one of the aesthetic skincare companies, and they did $12 million in Japan alone in revenue. It was 25% of their total revenue.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, so you're going to be then opening Japan and Korea and the other places you were mentioning through
India,
Clay, correct?
Yeah, we expect it to happen in Q4. So, we have regular calls with the Clay team, and they're definitely on path to do that. So we should be up and going in Q4. And the nice thing about that, Grant, is that typically in a distributor relationship, you set it up and they kind of take care of all sales and marketing. This model, we're actually doing a lot of direct-to-consumer investments, pop-up booths. We're investing a lot more in the infrastructure, which will ensure that we have a strong long-term presence. Mm-hmm. This team also, they were involved with the hydrofacial market introductions into Japan and Korea. as well as UAE and India.
Yep.
And that goes a long way. They know who the players are, the key, the physicians and medical spas within those countries. It was interesting. A number of months ago, when we first talked to the team, they had an incredible presentation for us. But one of the things that they did a lot of research on Jan Marini, and one of the key things that they loved, why they really wanted to represent us, was the success that we've had with Massage Envy. And so not only are we a partner with Massage Envy, we're the vendor of the year with Massage Envy. And they felt that that would give us a lot of street cred in those markets, that we're working with the number one U.S. supplier of aesthetic services, being Massage Envy. And not only are they working with them, but they have excelled in really the Jan Marini facials and retail products that they have there.
That's fantastic. Now, what's the future for Jan Marini? You've had this meteoric growth. You're expanding into Asia and Europe. What's the future look like for Jan Marini?
It's never been brighter, I can tell you that. This is where it gets fun. The first few years, it really tested our patience and our fortitude. But we're now at a point that, we're really doing what we want to do. We're making investments in a very aggressive way. We're doing a lot of direct-to-consumer awareness campaigns. We're spending more than 10x what we were doing 2 years ago on direct-to-consumer campaigns, really to build our brand with those that are seeking out aesthetic services. We're also looking at aesthetic device companies and other aesthetic companies and looking at ways that we can partner better with them. The space is exploding right now. Everybody that I talk to, I've talked to a number of CEOs, probably which have been interviewed by you in the past and will be in the future. But to a person, they're all saying that, the growth in post-COVID has never been stronger than what we're seeing right now. And so they are seeing the need to kind of cross-pollinate between their technologies and other technologies that are available. And skincare has never been hotter, and that's not one person's opinion. I know you're very familiar with the Klein Group, the Klein Report.
Yep.
Last year in December, they put out a report which surveyed physicians, and they asked them of 4 categories, which ones grew in 2020. And the categories included injectables, medical device, and medical equipment, and skincare. And skincare, the other 4 categories, or the other 3 categories, had a growth rate of 45% of responders saw growth. Skincare had a growth rate of 77% of responders saw growth last year. And so from that standpoint, we really are excited about the fact that, retail skincare and services is being looked at very different. In the past, Grant, when I first joined Jan Marini, it was a little frustrating. I think sometimes, physicians kind of like push it off to the esthetician and say, as long as they're happy. I don't think they're doing that any longer. I think they're trying to really combine what they're doing in location with a stronger retail strategy.
You're absolutely right on both points. I've interviewed a number of executives in this space, and there's no doubt the skincare space has grown post-COVID in an astronomical fashion. And also, when you interview patients and you interview other docs, they all echo the same sentiment, and it's leading the way. Of course, injectables are right behind it, but certainly skincare is leading the way. Are you doing any online sales, either through Jan Marini or through the doctor's offices, or what's your online presence?
That's an interesting byproduct of COVID. Before COVID, online was kind of like an afterthought, and we had to be very discreet, and we didn't put a lot of dollars there. But COVID was a game changer. And, and the first thing we did with COVID is we went back to our resellers and said, you've got to be in e-commerce. You really it's got to be a part of your strategy. And if you're relying on patients to come in your office for retail products, that's a dead strategy. You're going to leave a lot of dollars on the sidelines. And so what we do is we allow our resellers to use Jan Marini as the back end. We will do all their e-commerce shipping for them. All their patients can buy directly from our website, and we'll ship it 2 days free, and we'll give the physician the credit for that transaction. And so it allows for not only the first transaction. What we find is that typically in a physician office, there's typically 1 to 2 retail transactions per patient for the ones that are buying, while that same patient's buying 4 to 6 times a year. And so we want to have a longer term connection on behalf of the reseller. So it's not just introduce us to your patient, it's that person then, that consumer is hard coded to your account going forward. And so we're able to have a much stronger dialogue on your behalf. So that has allowed us, that really kind of took the handcuffs off. And so now we're going after e-commerce in a way that we're doing it all through authorized sites. We're with Amazon, Lovely Skin, Derm Store, and janmarini.com. We don't allow discounts except twice a year. And so we discount 2 weeks out of 52. And the funny thing is for the other 50 weeks, we do very well. So we maybe double of sales the 2 weeks, but we have found that, with the right consumer awareness campaigns, that we have a steady roll of revenue through the entire year. So yeah, our strategy is definitely something that we've heightened our focus there. And we believe that all boats rise, that the more times people come in Dr. Grant Stevens' office and say, hey, do you carry Jan Marini? The better off we are.
Now, how can you assure the physicians watching this program that they will actually get their proceeds, if you will, when they send a patient to your portal? How do they know they're going to see the revenue from their patient?
Well, we have a professional reseller link on our website, and you see every transaction. So every transaction that happens, Jane Doe comes, and clearly I'm not a very creative person. So when Jane comes in your office and she buys, it's going to show up the next day that Jane Doe, not only was she a buyer on janmarini.com, but this is what she bought. And then it allows you, the practitioner, to go back to Jane and say, I see you made a transaction through Jan Marini, and if you want to give her credit or some sort of other engagement, to kind of let her know that that is on your radar. And the more that you can have the white glove treatment where you're trying to get Jane to come in, but you're also trying to connect with Jane from her living room, the better off you're going to be.
Right. Oh, I agree entirely. You mentioned that you're partnering up with industry. I've noticed some of the other skincare lines have partnered up with injectables, lasers, and so forth. Is Jan Marini doing that now, or is this something you're going to do in the future?
We've done some of that. It's got to be, the biggest challenge there is that, do we want the same things from this partnership, right? I can talk to, I've got a lot of respect for a lot of companies, and, at the end of the day, do we have kind of similar goals? But, we are seeing an elevated interest there. We've participated in a number of aesthetic device events here in the last few months, and they've been very popular in terms of, when physicians hear our story and what we're doing to support them, they buy in. They're definitely intrigued. And the thing, one of the things that we do in terms of who's Jan Marini, we have two taglines. For the consumer, it's transform your skin.
Okay.
And it's a compelling, when you use these products, your skin you're going to recognize it in the mirror. And for our resellers, our whole thing is transform your business. And, we're not a company that's trying to sell you products. We're trying to be a partner that elevates what you're doing in the category. And so there's a lot of skincare companies out there. There are not a lot of skincare companies that have clinical findings and clinical proof sources. But on top of that, what are you doing to drive revenue? What are you doing to create programs which will be popular for my staff and for my patients? And that's where I really feel like we excel. We have more programs than anybody that I'm aware of, actually.
To help the practices?
Yeah, one of the programs that we did earlier this year is we're working with a group, and it's called the TAP program. It's KLC Marketing, and they typically have a year-long virtual classroom where they, people that attend that classroom over the course of a year pay through the entire year, several $1,000s per month to get their expertise. And you're going on this journey with this marketing group with this homework assigned, but you're also going through that journey with people that are like you across the country. And so they worked with a lot of dermatologists, aesthetic offices, and plastics, and they had a great reputation. We were the first skincare company to sign an exclusive arrangement where we have access to them. Any physician that signs up with Jan Marini at a certain dollar amount will get access at no charge for 8 weeks.
And what's the name of that again?
KLC. Okay. And our program, it's called the TAP program. But for the accounts that go through it in these shifting waters that we find ourselves in, the ones that do the best, the aesthetic offices that do the best, they want to learn more. What can I do with staffing? What can I do to project to patients? What can I do to draw more patients? How do I combine services? How do I have a stronger retail strategy? So they cover this entire gamut, and it's the feedback has been off the charts. And it's not only about skincare. That's one of our attendees came and said, I thought it was about Jan Marini. This is about my aesthetic office. And that's the partner we want to be. We don't want to be the partner that's just focusing on just Jan Marini, but we want our aesthetic offices to feel like they're growing benefit of the partnership.
That's fantastic. I want to sign up for that.
I'll get you a link next week.
Fantastic. Okay. Now, in terms of working with other companies, have you worked at all with Friend Media?
Yeah, Nick's he's been around the industry for a long time, and
Yeah, he was on my show.
Yeah,
Yeah, Nick.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we just started that fairly recently. We're one of the only skincare companies out there that actually has a full-time videographer.
Fantastic.
We made that investment 2 or 3 years ago, and I remember when I went to our VP of marketing and said, "Hey, I think we should do this." He said, "Well, I think we have enough work for 2 months." Here we are now, 2, 3 years later, and he's booked out for the next year. Storytelling is so important, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's an emotional business.
Yes.
You really want to have that story told by physicians. You want to hear the story from people within the company and people that use the products.
Right.
We're actually populating Friend Media right now with a series of videos that are available, which showcase our products, the company, and events that we're doing to appeal to them in coming weeks. So I believe we're actually the most uploaded video source in skincare, and we plan on continuing that. But right now, we just started this here in the last few weeks. But for a physician that signs up, if they want Friend Media, we'll sponsor them for a 6-month period just by partnering with Jan Marini.
That's fantastic. What percentage of the Friend Media content then would the patient have to show or play? What percentage has to be Jan Marini?
If they want us to sponsor them, it would be 50%. It was interesting when I was talking to Nick. They did a kind of a quasi study where one of the leading brands that are out there in aesthetics, I won't say who it is, but it's a brand that we both of us have a lot of respect for. They had they sent out 200 of Friend Media sticks to half the customers. The other half of this aesthetic brand's customers did not participate in the program. A year later, in terms of the elevation of that brand and the treatments that were done, I think it was an 87% increase for the offices that used Friend Media for the first 6 months. And then the next 6 months, it was a 50% increase. And so if you think about it, what Nick says, which makes a lot of sense, is when you walk into an office, the typical time that you're sitting in the treatment room is 19 minutes.
Okay.
And so you got two choices. Do you allow them to be on their smartphone, which is mindless stuff, or worse yet, you have a TV on that is showing the news, or some loop tape from 1995. Either way, it doesn't work. And so the fact that you can download relevant material that you're doing that's organic to your office, as well as manufacturers that you're working with, just makes a lot of sense. He also mentioned that only 20% of services that are actually offered by that aesthetic provider are known by that consumer. Mm-hmm. So consumers are pretty myopic. They come in, they associate a treatment to this office, but the reality is they probably do have interest in a good portion of that other 80% that they're not familiar with. What better way to create that familiarity than to have them while they're sitting there in the treatment room to understand what else you offer?
Well, I would agree. And wouldn't it be nice to have them be able to take it out of the treatment room and home with them?
Yeah.
And that's the opportunity to work with Engage.
Right,
and
that's
Aesthetic
right.
Innovations.
Yeah.
I notice you're starting to work with Engage now. Engage Technologies out of Boise. Is that right?
Yes, that is accurate. And I actually saw the interview that you did a number of months ago, and after watching that, I said these guys are game changers. And one of the things that if you think about a smartphone and what's the most prized way of communicating, it's not email,
Text.
It's not voice, it's text. That's right. And so they got that. And and the fact that you're able to send your patients direct video material on other services and educating them. And when it comes to skincare, being able for them to purchase from their smartphone and have it delivered to their home. And so there again, you think about a typical aesthetic office, you come in and you have a treatment done and you can QR code it, or that office can send that information to us, Jan Marini, where we're able to send the links to that patient. And so we're very excited about that. In that scenario, the physician's account actually gets a check from Engage Media. And so, what can we do to broaden the aesthetic services and products which are purchased? And I think Engage Media is a great way of doing that, as well as educating.
Yes, I would agree entirely. Well, we've talked a little about the future in Jan Marini. Can you tell me what you see the future for the aesthetics business, just sort of from 40,000 feet? Not just skincare, but what do you say in the next 1, 3, 5 years is going to be happening in this post-COVID world?
I mean, Grant, it's really encouraging. You think about it, it wasn't that long ago. Every time that we would hear about the market, the growth of the market, you would hear baby boomers being kind of the aging population of baby boomers that they wanted to preserve. If you look at the way the market's going now, it's not baby boomers or Gen X or Y. You're looking at millennials that are seeking out at a much younger age than baby boomers did.
Mm.
And so we're seeing, if you look at our demographics, 18 to 35, which is that millennial population, it's a good portion of what we're actually selling. And so just the fact that they're a lot more astute to what's available, and the fact that they have a lot of discretionary dollars that they want to spend, it just shows you across different generations that the demand's growing year after year. And I think that's going to continue. I think that one of the areas I feel like offer a tremendous promise for accounts like you and for the industry is, what are you doing to cross-pollinate? What are you doing to combine injectables with maybe microneedling, hydrofacial, brands that we're familiar with, but stronger protocols that really blends different technologies that we have in our office, where it makes it less of a commodity. Mm-hmm. And that's really what the challenge is. What can I do to differentiate where I feel like I'm able to assimilate and offer my patients a solution or a protocol that we believe in, that does not look at us, they don't look at us like we're a commodity.
Yes. Yeah, it's interesting. We had David Motizetti on the show just a few weeks ago, and he was saying the same thing. As you know, he's the CEO of Evolus, and he's targeting those millennial females with his Jeuveau, his neurotoxin, and he had very similar information about that demo. And I'm not surprised that they're utilizing so much of the Jan Marini process or products. What separates Jan Marini from other skincare lines vis-a-vis? And you don't need to tell me trade secrets, John, but you could if you want. But I mean, are they growth factors? Is it peptides? Is it all of the above? What makes the Jan Marini line so special and so unique?
Yeah, you know what? It's. Let me kind of give you the 30,000 foot view.
Okay.
And Jan Marini herself, she's of course the founder of the company. She's still passionate about PR and product formulation. And our VP of R&D has been in pharmaceuticals for 35 years, and he's worked with skincare brands. He's never seen somebody that is more devoted to having high concentrations of peptides and actives in their formulations. And the nice thing about a privately held company, you do what you want to do. And so our products are packed with growth factors and peptides and key ingredients, key actives, much more so. It's not just a marketing buzzword that we can use a certain ingredient. It's done at a therapeutic level. And if anything, I think we probably we over-engineer rather than under-engineer. So, we probably have the broadest spectrum of retail products in the market. You name a category, we have a solution in that category. On top of the fact, we have customized facials, and we also have chemical peels. So, if for any dermatologist that probably carries 5 or 10 lines, I can guarantee you we'll be able to find something where Jan Marini will fill an additional niche for them.
That's fantastic. And you distribute to physicians and non-physicians,
That's
right?
We do.
Okay. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share with us today?
Yeah, you know what? It's an exciting era in aesthetics, and we couldn't be more excited about the future.
That's fantastic.
I mean, the thing for us is, it's great to see success, but I think the thing that really culturally sets us apart is we're very employee centric, we're very sales centric, and we want to do everything we can to attract more people to this company. At the end of the day, great companies are made by great people. And I'm fortunate to work with a lot of talented people that feel like they can grow here. Their voice is heard, and it's going to take Jan Marini to much higher levels in 2021 and beyond.
Well, congratulations on that and your commitment to patient education, as well as the physician and their staff, the educational process that Jan Marini is committed to under your leadership. I would like to congratulate you and compliment you for your commitment. That's very important.
Thank you, Grant.
And I want to thank you for joining me, and I want to encourage you to come down to Marina Del Rey and Manhattan Beach and be on the program again, and stop by my office when you are traveling. Come down to L.A. We miss seeing you. Yeah, okay, that sounds great. Okay. So thank you once again. And I'd like to thank all of you for joining us again. I'm sure you had a great time and learned a lot about John Connors and also Jan Marini. And we look forward to seeing you each and every Tuesday on the Technology of Beauty, where I have the opportunity to interview the movers and shakers of the beauty business. Take care, John.
Thanks, Grant. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.